Hello boys and girls, welcome to grade 11 work solving for angles. Right, in grade 10 you learned how to solve angles but not between 0 and 360. Now we're going to learn how to solve angles in other quadrants starting from 0 degrees up to 360. Now here's the question. For example, solve for x. Right, you know what we're going to do. We're going to rearrange this and write it in a form of a function of an angle is equal to a value. What I mean is this. We're going to rearrange equal to 5. 10, the sine of x equal to 5, and divide both sides by 10. Then sine of x is equal to 5 over 10, which is half. So the sine of x is equal to half. Right, in grade 10, we are simply going to apply the arc of sine half and then leave the answer. Now, in this case, we have sine of x equal to half, and it is positive half. Now you're going to think about how to solve this problem now. Right, we're going to use the reduction formula. Right, this function of an angle is positive half in the first quadrant and the second quadrant. Remember, all functions in here are positive, and the sine and its reciprocal are positive there. Now, in order for us to solve for this, we're going to think about reduction formula. Right, what you're going to do first is to find the reference angle. Now, the reference angle is a positive acute angle. Now, ref angle is equal to arc the sine of half, which is 30 degrees. Now, the reference angle is 30 degrees. Now, this means that if the arm is drawn in this quadrant, for example, theta will be here. That is the reference angle. And if the arm is drawn in that quadrant, theta will be here. The reference angle, remember, the reference angle is the angle between the x-axis and the arm. Right, now, we found this reference angle now is 30 degrees. Now, in the first quadrant, x is exactly 30 degrees. That's where the sine of an angle is positive. Right, then we're going to move on into the second quadrant and find the other angle. Right, in the second quadrant, 180 minus theta, reference angle. Second quad, x is now equal to 180 minus ref angle. What is the reference angle? Reference angle is 30 degrees. Now the angle is 150. Now it means we solve for those values of x between 0 and 360 that satisfy this equation. If we substitute this 30 degrees to check here, we're going to get the result as 0. If we substitute also 150, we're going to get the result 0. Let's do another example. The second example from worksheet 10J number 2. Solve for x if x is the element of 0 degrees up to 360. Right, here's the question. What we're going to do is to rearrange, apply inverse operations until we remain with the function of an angle. Now what we're going to do is to apply the inverse operation. We're going to multiply both sides by 3 over 2, multiply by 3 over 2, or divide both sides by 2 over 3. Right, then what is going to remain is negative 3 over 4. Negative half multiplied by 3 over 2 is negative 3 over 4. Right, now the function of an angle is equal to negative 3 over 4. In grade 10, you will never find the situation where a function of an angle is a negative. Now that we refer to other quadrants, we're going to find it negative. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to think about where is this function negative. This function is negative in these two quadrants, in the second and the third. Remember, the sign is positive in there and the tangent is positive there, but cos is positive in this quadrant. We're not going to use this quadrant. We're going to use these two quadrants reduction formula. Now, what we need is the reference angle. Now, how do we find a reference angle after rearranging so that we have a function of an angle equal to a value? Reference angle is as follows. We always use a positive value, the absolute value of this, not negative. A reference angle is equal to the cos of positive 3 over 4, not negative. Remember, a reference angle is a positive acute angle. Don't ever use a negative for reference angle, which is equal to, when you press it on your calculator, right, we always correct two decimal places when it is not mentioned. Right, that is the reference angle. This is not the solution. Reference angle is not the solution. Right, now, we're going to look at the function. I said we're going to use the reduction formula, 180 minus reference angle. So this function is negative in quadrant, in the second quadrant, in quadrant 2. Right, that angle now is equal to 180 minus reference angle, which is 180 minus 41,41 degrees. The answer is 138,59 degrees. That is the angle in the second quadrant. We are not done. Where else is that function negative? That function is negative in this quadrant. In the third quadrant, in the third quad, x is equal to 180 plus ref angle. 180 plus, remember the reference angle is 41,41 degrees. Then the answer is 221,41 degrees. Right. Those are two angles that we found that determines that the cos of x is equal to negative 3 over 4, or that will satisfy the first question. If you substitute this in approximation, you're going to get this right. And if you substitute also this one in approximation, you're going to get 0.5. Remember, we rounded the answer in approximation. It won't be exactly that, but if we don't round, the answer will be exactly 0.5, negative 0.5. Right, let's do another example about the tangent. The third example from worksheet 10J number 3. Solve for x, where x is the element of 0 degrees up to 360. We are given an equation here. What you're going to do is the same thing. You're going to rearrange so that we remain with the function of an angle. Firstly, we're going to divide both sides by 2. Right, then the result will be the tangent of angle x plus 10 degrees is equal to negative 2,5 divided by 2. Then the tangent of x plus 10 degrees is equal to negative 1,2. 5. Now, this is a function of an angle equal to a value. Don't ever remove an angle out of brackets and mix it with digits. Don't ever add digits to angles. Please make sure you solve for this entire angle. Don't rearrange. Please don't touch angles. We only touch those values around, not the angle. Right, now we have a function of an angle equal to a value. Then the first thing we're going to do is to check whether this function is positive or is negative. Now the function is negative and is tangent. Now when you go back to the reduction formula, we're going to use these two reduction formula, the second quadrant and the fourth quadrant. That's where the function is negative. But firstly, we're going to find the reference angle. Remember, the reference angle is not a solution. The tangent of positive 1,25. Remember, reference angle, we use a positive value. Every time when you find reference angle and you find an angle that is not acute or an angle that is not positive, then it means you did something wrong. We always use a positive value to find a reference angle. Don't use the negative value. Right, the reference angle, when you use your calculator to press this, you're going to find 51,34 degrees. That is the reference angle correct to 2 decimal places. Now, this is not the solution. The solution is in the second quadrant and the fourth quadrant. That's where this function is negative. Now we refer to those quadrants using this reference angle. Now in the second quadrant, the angle is x plus 10 degrees. That angle is 180 minus reference angle. Reference angle is 51,34 degrees. Now we're going to rearrange and solve for x. Right, when we rearrange, x equal to 128,66, then minus 10 degrees. The result is 118,66 degrees. That is the angle in the second quadrant. Now we're going to find the solution in the other quadrant. In which quadrant is the function negative? In the fourth quadrant. In the fourth quadrant. Now, in the fourth quadrant, x plus 10 degrees is equal to 360 minus reference angle, which is 51,34 degrees. Right, then x is equal to 308,66 degrees, then minus 10 degrees. Then at the end, the answer is 298,66 degrees. We found those angles in between 0 and 360, where this function is negative. That's it. Please try other examples and then wait for general solution.